Stillwater. Earlier this week, the former Oklahoma State defensive line standout was back in the news as Emmanuel Ogbah did not show for the first day of the Cleveland Browns' off-season workouts. That is very unlike Ogbah, but the truth as to why he was a no-show became very apparent by late that morning. Why be in Cleveland when your team is in Kansas City? As Ogbah was traded to the Chiefs. Good for him, closer to home in Stillwater and Houston, his college and high school homes. Ogbah was a good face for the Cowboys on the defensive line, as was now Miami Dolphins defensive tackle Vincent Taylor and soon-to-be drafted defensive end Jordan Brailford. You see, the Cowboys may be giving up a lot of yards and points like all Big 12 defenses have, but they've had good players, NFL-caliber players leading on the defensive line. The question begs this spring, who is next? Can they do anything to slow down the opposing offenses in this crazy offensive-minded conference? Head coach Mike Gundy was asked on Wednesday after the 8th spring workout for the Cowboys, and he said it is too soon. The head coach not ready to name any players yet that may be the future face of the Pokes defensive line. We think we have an idea. Introducing a pair of homegrown defensive linemen, one a defensive tackle from Bixby and redshirt sophomore Brendan Evers and the other a defensive end from Ulaga and redshirt sophomore defensive end Brock Martin. As of this spring, Martin, who is listed at 6'4", 242 pounds, has played in 13 games, all his second fall in Stillwater, after missing his first season and redshirting following shoulder surgery. Martin made 7 tackles last season with 1 tackle for loss and 1 sack. The sack came against South Alabama. Evers, who is listed at 6'2", 290 pounds, also played in all 13 games last season as well, and his numbers, 7 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss and 1 sack. Evers got his sack on Missouri standout and soon-to-be first-round NFL draft choice Drew Lock. While Evers and Martin are both homegrown, they are different. Evers was born in Dallas, Texas and raised in Bixby, a small suburb south of Tulsa. Evers is studying business law. He can come off as a country kind of guy, but is also big city. Martin is much more country from Ulaga. Both did wrestle in high school and both love the outdoors. Personality-wise, we're on other sides of the world, I think, started Martin. I'd like to think that I am more, kind of, reserved, laid back and reserved. I talk smack when it needs to be to the offensive guys, kind of messing around. Brendan does kind of the same, so yeah, I guess we are similar there. He does talk more, I'm a little bit more reserved. I think we are kind of similar in that we both grew up in small towns, wrestled. He was a little bit better wrestler than I was, Evers said, giving in on the wrestling where Martin was a multiple state champion at Ulaga. We're both from that style of Oklahoma football, put your hand on the ground, and then go hit somebody in the head, you know, that type of play. I think we've both been very successful in our careers, and at one time we're competing for stats, texting each other. I think we are very similar in our work ethic. We don't slack off on the field or in the weight room. Coach Joe Bob Clements, Greg Richmond, and all the strength guys have trust in us. That is very important to us. I think we are different in that I am a little more vocal. He is more reserved, which is not a bad thing, and I'm a little more vocal. We are kind of like the yin and yang of each other in that sense. The most important similarity is that work ethic is both players will go full bore all the time. Both like to train, as in weightlifting. They like to play physical. The question begs, are these two ready to be the flag bearers? Are they ready to carry the torch on the defensive line? You know, luckily I got to play last year and I got to see when I came in how the older guys led, Evers said of his redshirt season before playing in all 13 games last season. That kind of helped me, wrote a script for me for what I am doing now, helping these younger guys who come in and maybe don't know how we do things here. I'm comfortable where I'm at, added Martin, talking as much about playing time as providing a leadership role. Neither Martin or Evers want to step on toes of older players, but some of the older players are junior college transfers or transfers and haven't been in the Cowboy culture as long as the two Oklahoma products. You know, Mike Scott has been doing great this spring, and I think we will probably share reps, you know, for the rest of spring ball, and then in fall camp probably do the same thing. Then first game of the season we'll see where it's at. I know that I feel comfortable with where I am. There is help as Israel Antwine comes in from Colorado and has played more snaps than the duo of Evers and Martin combined. Sione Ossie is in from junior college, and then there is senior Mike Scott at defensive end, junior Cameron Murray at defensive tackle, redshirt freshman Tyler Lacey and Braden Cassidy at defensive end, and Samuel Tuahalamaka at defensive tackle. It's just like defensive coordinator Jim Knowles said the first day of spring practice, the secondary is loaded as A.J. Green and Rydarius Williams return as starting corners, and there are 6 scholarship players behind them going through spring. At the end of the season, Malcolm Rodriguez and Jarek Bernard were starting at safety, and Colby Peel was playing as much as a starter. 3 of those guys return. Bernard and Peel will just be sophomores, and there are 5 scholarship players in spring battling for time behind the top 3. That kind of depth is not near as apparent on the front 7, line or linebackers. The front 7 and defensive line need leaders too. Evers and Martin look like 2 good candidates.